get right into it, because on Tuesday, the whole health world was talking about this drug called Dexamethasone. What can you tell us about it?
Well, it's not a new drug. It's a 60-year-old drug. It's an anti-inflammatory, and it's used to treat a lot of different conditions, asthma, arthritis, generally autoimmune type conditions, because it's one of these drugs that tamps down on the immune system. It's an anti-inflammatory. I think I may have said that. Anyway, a lot of anti-inflammatories are under study right now with COVID, because COVID is such a new germ, such a new virus, that when your body encounters it, it just puts up a huge effort to try to eject it. And all of the immune system gets focused on trying to kill this virus, trying to get rid of it. And that sets up what they call this cytokine storm that sometimes occurs in some of the most severely ill patients. And it has a wide variety of sequelae, of effects that come after that. It could cause clotting, it could cause organ damage, it could cause brain damage. Some people get, what they call COVID toe, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it affects your body really from the top of your head to your toes. So that's why researchers are looking at these drugs, these anti-inflammatory drugs, to try to quell this overreaction. So dexamethasone was part of a big study called Recovery that was started a few months ago here in the UK. And these are interesting studies because they take a number of different drugs and sort of pit them against one another all at the same time, so that one rises to the top. And in this case, dexamethasone rose to the top. It's the first drug that's ever been shown to actually improve survival, and that is a huge advance. Remdesivir, you've probably heard about remdesivir. That's the Gilead drug, right? Mm-hmm. So remdesivir has only been shown to decrease the time of recovery for patients, whereas this actually helps more patients live longer.
So then who does it benefit most? I know I read somewhere that it's for very severe coronavirus patients, correct?
Right. Yeah. So far, I mean, these are early days, right? But so far, it only helps patients who need help breathing. Okay. So these are the sickest patients, right? These are the ones on ventilators, the ones getting oxygen, and let's be clear here. I want to make sure people understand this is not a cure. It only contributed, cut deaths by a third in people who are on ventilators, and by a fifth in people who are on oxygen. And it did not help people who did not need breathing assistance. And the last thing that anybody should think about is taking dexamethasone proactively, because it's a steroid and it would not help anybody. A lot of people took hydroxychloroquine thinking that it might help them preventively.
Yeah. And
you would not want to try to do that with this drug. It is a powerful steroid. It is not for people who are not already sick.
And has this been peer reviewed yet? I know, like, throughout this pandemic, we hear so much information about studies. I mean, where is this current study currently at?
Yeah, so that's actually a very interesting question. Yeah, as you point out, a lot of studies have come out without peer review. I honestly don't know what the status of peer review is on these figures right now. All we know is that they were released by press release by the University of Oxford. Of course, very prestigious university, some of the best minds. I'm sure a lot of people looked this over. This is big news for the British government, which has been under fire really for its performance with the pandemic. The UK has the most deaths of any country in Europe, and so they're looking for a win right here in the UK right now. So this is Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, Matt Hancock, the health secretary, both came out and talked about how happy they are about these results, and they should be happy about them. It is definitely big news. But it'll be interesting. I've been reading a little bit about on Twitter. Other researchers are already saying, okay, what was the study protocol? Let's find out more about how this study was carried out first before we call this an unmitigated win. But the results are very strong.
And I've also been reading too about people talking about the price of this drug, right? That it's really cheap. Why is that significant compared to other potential treatments that we've heard about, like remdesivir and other potential drugs?
Yeah, that's another really good question. I mean, not only is this drug cheap, so it's as I said, it's a generic drug. Yeah. It's not under patent anymore. Anybody can make it. We've already identified a few drug makers who are making it. They include Merck, Mylan. There's one in South Africa called Aspen, and I'm sure there are more. So evidently, a course of treatment, this is what we saw in the British press, a course of treatment costs about £5, at least here. I know what it costs in the US, as you know, there's a huge difference in drug prices between the UK and the US, right?
Yeah.
But here, £5, so you're talking about, $7, something like that, right? That's for a full course of treatment. So very affordable, and of course that's very important for low-income countries that can't afford or would have difficulty affording some of these other treatments, like, for example, remdesivir, which it's not that Gilead is necessarily charging a lot of money for it, and it's an expensive drug to make. It has to be given, I'm fairly sure remdesivir is given by IV. Whereas dexamethasone, you're just given a tablet, so you don't have that, all that equipment, the personnel. You just hand the drug to the patient, they take it, boom. So yeah, that is a very important issue.
So then, how should people interpret this? I mean, you're studying this on a daily basis. You're researching this and reporting on this. How should everyday people take in this information? Because we don't know where we're at, right, globally in this against the virus.
Well, I think, as I mentioned, right, it's not a cure.
Yeah.
And nobody should think of it that way. It doesn't prevent the disease. It might save your life, but there's no guarantee of that. We're talking about reduced deaths by a third in this very sick population. Okay, so there's a lot of limitations on it. But it's still very good news because, for one thing, it validates that this class of drugs, of anti-inflammatories, is likely to have a lot of benefit. And there's any number, dozens of anti-inflammatories out there that are already under study. Some of them may have more effect than dexamethasone. There are all kinds of, some of them are called IL-6 inhibitors, so not necessarily steroids. There's another one that actually stops the production of the type of cells that are involved in cytokine storm. These are called GM-CSF inhibitors. So we're looking at a possible generation of treatments, again, for the sickest of patients. And then the other thing is it gives doctors and researchers something to build on. Probably we'll see combinations of treatment with remdesivir and with dexamethasone or other anti-inflammatories coming along very soon.
Got it. Do you think very soon?
I would imagine so. I mean, both of these drugs have shown their potential so far, and if I were a doctor right now, I mean, I'm just saying the natural thing would be to reach for when you have the sickest of patients, you reach for the tools at hand.
Mm-hmm. And then what are medical experts saying then about the timeline for a vaccine? Like, are we still looking at early next year, mid next year? Do we know?
Well, no, I mean, we're looking at this year.
This year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're looking at September. So AstraZeneca is developing, again, with the University of Oxford. Oxford University has been very, very successful, very active so far in this pandemic. So they have a vaccine under development with AstraZeneca, and their timeline is that vaccine is going to be, that they may begin delivering doses as early as September in the UK and as early as October in the US. And then in the rest of Europe, you may see doses of that vaccine before the end of the year. So again, that has to be shown in clinical trials. Hasn't been shown yet. There's a ways to go, but the timeline is there. You know, we're looking at the possibility of a vaccine by September.
It's a race. It's a global race.
It is a race. Yeah.
And then I just wanted to end on this other news that we're seeing from around the world. Yesterday, Beijing announced that schools were going to be closing in response to new outbreaks there. What can you tell us about what's happening over there?
Well, they traced a bunch of cases back to, I believe, to a fish market. I think what's going on there, I mean, this is just a testament to how seriously China, at this point anyway, perhaps not throughout the entire pandemic or epidemic, outbreak, whatever you want to call it. But at this point, they are taking this very seriously. They're closing schools, they're quarantining people, closing off neighborhoods, and doing everything within their power to make sure that this outbreak does not take hold. China has done enormous, I believe they tested 12 million people in 10 days in Wuhan when they were worried about a resurgence in Wuhan. I read that they've tested something like 356,000 people in Beijing already. So they are throwing all kinds of resources at this. What it does show, I think, is that even in this environment where you're taking it very seriously and doing everything that you can, it's a highly infectious virus.
Yeah.
And when somebody's infected, you have to be really careful or they're going to spread it to somebody else. So I think that's what's happening there right now.
Yeah, which is contrary. I mean, you're saying they're taking extreme measures. It's contrary to what we're seeing in other places around the world, right? Like in the US, for instance, we're seeing new hotspots pop up, and not the similar sort of action being taken as
well, the testing program, I don't know if you could even call it a program at this point. It doesn't appear to be nationwide. It's not coordinated. It's not universal, not comprehensive. So the U.S. says it's doing more tests than anybody else, but some nations where they really have had, first of all, comprehensive testing and tracing, the proof is in the pudding there. In South Korea and in Germany and a couple of other countries, they've had excellent results. And I think when the U.S. comes around to that, they'll have the same type of results.
Yeah. So we got a long way to go. I mean, we're not in second wave. We're still like very much in the first wave. I think I heard Dr. Fauci say this week.
Yeah, I agree with that, actually. Yeah.
All right. Well, John, thank you so much for being here. Please come back because, you have all the information and we want to talk to you more. So thank you so much for making us smarter today. And thanks to everyone else for tuning in. I'm Jen Zabasatra from Bloomberg Quick Take. I'll see you next time.